right, here we go. We are live here at the webinar of the Startup Germany tour on logistics and mobility. Thank you all for coming. We started a little bit late, but now we are ready to depart. And yeah, we're all very excited to use the next about 60 minutes to give you an overview of the logistics and mobility sector, and yeah, look at some trends and innovations and a lot of other important things that are happening here in Germany. My name is Kim Zietlow, and I am your host of today. I am Director for Trend and Innovation Scouting at Germany Trade and Invest, Germany's Federal Economic Development Organization. I'm here with my colleague Stephanie Burgdorf, who I will introduce in a minute to you. So first of all, this webinar is part of the Startup Germany tour. So what is this about? The Startup Germany tour has the objective to attract startups from all over the world to Germany and build bridges with all sorts of innovation stakeholders from the private and public sector. During the actual tour that is physically, or let's say as a hybrid this year, happening in November, and the pre-plan program running online until November, international startups and entrepreneurs get the chance to participate in reverse corporate pitch events, virtual matchmakings, one-on-one meetings, and learn about business culture and market entry to Germany. So we actually have quite a range of exciting things coming up. So first of all, let me tell you, this is the 5th time that the Startup Germany tour happens this year. I was actually lucky to participate the first time. I was there at the German Chamber of Commerce in Saudi Arabia in those days, where we started the first German-Saudi startup competition to select the best startups from Saudi Arabia to come to Germany as part of this tour. And today, or this year, we are lucky to have more than 40 German foreign chambers abroad participating in this year's tour. This is a huge success, and we're very, very glad that this tour continues and grows over the years. Just to give you some numbers for today, we have almost 100 registrations from people coming from over 26 countries from all over the world. This is massive, this is unique. And we are very happy that we as Germany Trade and Invest and representing the Digital Hub initiative can run this webinar together for you. So, but this would all not be possible with a range of partners and organizers, and it's very important for us to name those. So in a nutshell, we have the Chamber of Commerce and Industry in Dortmund, namely Dominik Stute and his team. Then there are the Chambers of Commerce and Industry in North Rhine-Westphalia, the Association of German Chambers and Commerce and Industry, the German chambers abroad, which I already mentioned, making this Startup Germany tour a truly global initiative. And on a local level, there's the Ministry of Economy, Innovation, Digitization and Energy of the state of North Rhine-Westphalia, and NRW Global Business, the Economic Development Organization of the state of North Rhine-Westphalia. So thanks to all of these partners and organizers to making this whole tour happen. So what can we expect today? What is this webinar about? First of all, it's about to give you an introduction to the German market in general, to tell you a bit more about the Digital Hub initiative, Germany's national digital innovation ecosystem. And of course, we will also provide some useful market entry information from my distinguished colleague, Stephanie Burgdorf. And of course, we have some high-level experts with us today to make a deep dive into the logistics and mobility sector in Germany. We discuss exciting trends, new technologies, and also how foreign companies and startups especially can participate in the market. So much from my side. I'm very happy that you're all here. And with no further ado, I would like to hand over to my colleague Stephanie to tell you a bit more about the German market and Germany Trade and Invest and so on. First of all, Stephanie has more than 10 years experience working for Germany Trade and Invest. She has advised hundreds of startups from all over the world in terms of market entry to Germany. And it's my personal privilege to have her actually in my team, Trend and Innovation Scouting at Germany Trade and Invest, working on the internationalization of the Digital Hub initiative on behalf of Germany's Federal Ministry for Economic Affairs and Energy. So, thank you, Stephanie, for being with us, and the floor is yours.
Thank you, Kim, for the very kind introduction, and very nice to meet you all. I'm happy to be here with you today. I brought some slides, and I will just share my screen with you. Just a second. There we are. So I hope you can all see my screen. If not, please shout, Kim, if you can't see, or anybody else here. So yeah, I'll do the. There we are. So before we start, I'd like to mention a few words about Germany Trade and Invest. As Kim was saying, I've been working with GTAI for quite a while. And what are we actually doing, and what are we there for? Germany Trade and Invest is the economic development agency of Germany, and we do have more than 50 offices abroad. We have three main tasks, basically. So the first one is that we support German companies when setting up a business in the foreign markets. And on the other side, we promote Germany as a business location, which goes hand in hand with assisting international companies coming to Germany and setting up the business here in Germany. So how do we actually do this? Well, we support your project management when coming to Germany, and we provide you with assistance from the very earliest stage of your expansion strategy. And then on the other side, for instance, we provide you with all industry information, so key industry information about different markets, e.g. The logistics and mobility sector. And we also inform you about the R&D landscape and identify business locations for you. So we do site visits with our partners here in Germany and so on. And of course, all our investor-related services are treated with confidentially and are provided free of charge. But I'm pretty sure you're quite interested in the German startup ecosystem, because most of you participating today are either startups or scale-ups. So here I have some figures from last year. And as you can see, despite the COVID pandemic, there have been almost 3,000 startups founded last year, which is quite a lot. And there have been almost 2,000 funding rounds as well. Regarding the VC money spent, we had almost 5.3 billion euros, meaning that during the last years, the VC spending in Germany has quite risen a lot. Regarding the industries, probably it's not too surprisingly, ICT is leading up front with almost a third of the whole industry. And then it's followed by food, retail, consumer goods, healthcare, and so on. Regarding the business models, software as a service leads up front, followed by online platforms, software development, and e-commerce. Here you see a selection of quite successful startups in Germany. They are all ranked unicorns, as you can see here. And also with regards to the logistics and mobility sector, probably you all are familiar with names like Flixbus, Omio, or Ascender. The three of them are all in the field of either transportation or logistics, or like a search engine for the logistics and transportation industry. When it comes to scaling to Germany, we identified 9, or actually 10 reasons. I will tell you about the 10th reason later on. But first of all, we identified 9 reasons why you should choose Germany as a startup and as a business location. I mean, you all participating at this webinar right now because you are already showing some interest in the German market. So we believe you are a little bit familiar with the German market. Nevertheless, we'd like to point out that, first of all, Germany is a leading economy. We have a very large domestic market with almost 82 million people, and we are the world's 4th largest economy worldwide. Secondly, we are a global player, and we also have one of the highest productivity rates in the world. And this is also followed by our excellent workforce. We really have a very good education system, also with like vocational training, not only universities. So you can do training on site in the job as well as in universities. And we do have an innovative power, meaning that Germany is Europe's #1 location for research. From 6 to 9, we have the first class infrastructure, and you will hear about the sixth reason a little bit more later on in our panel discussion from our great panelists. But you all know that Germany is located in the heart of Europe, so it's very easy to go from Germany to other countries in Germany and beyond. We also have quite a lot of incentives, not only for startups, but for companies in general when coming to Germany. And we also have quite competitive tax conditions, as well as a very high quality of life in Germany. As I was saying in the beginning of my speech, Germany Trade and Invest can provide you with a lot of information about setting up a business in Germany. So whenever you have questions regarding visa and entry regulations, about establishing a company, or the whole process of financing and incentives, including incentive programs, taxation, customs, and so on, but also in the field of employees and social security, etc., and finding the right location, please feel free to contact us, and we and our colleagues will be very happy to assist you further when expanding to Germany. But earlier, I was mentioning a 10th reason, and which I will come to now. Kim was already mentioning that I will tell you a little bit about the Digital Hub initiative in Germany, which is the 10th reason from my point of view to come to Germany, because this is a very great initiative by the Federal Ministry of Economic Affairs and Energy. It started in 2017, and our mission is to become a digital ecosystem of global importance. So fostering digitization and creating new digital business models, new digital solutions in order to make the world a little bit better. And how are we doing this? Well, we trying to connect either German or international startups with corporates, SMEs, academia, and so on in Germany in order to create win-win situations for all of them. Here you see the map of Germany, and you see 12 little red dots. Those are the so-called digital hubs. And as you can see, all of them have a different industry focus. And so for you guys listening today, probably the most interesting ones would be the logistics hub in Hamburg, and also the logistics hub in Dortmund, and the mobility and insurtech hub in Munich. And I'm quite happy that within our network of the Digital Hub initiative, we have two great speakers today who can tell you a little bit more about the different industries, and also what the hubs are there for and how they can help you with. Since the start in 2017, more than 2,500 startups have joined the initiative, and more than 2,000 SMEs, but also a variety of international corporations and scientific and academic institutes. To keep going with some numbers, probably most important or interesting for you is that we already could establish 500 collaborations between SMEs or corporates with startups. So there's really a big network of matchmaking and win-win situation, as I was saying earlier. And also, since the beginning of the initiative, more than 1.4 billion euros VC money has been invested in our DE Hub startups. So to show you with these numbers, when participating in this network, you really have a great potential or opportunity to broaden your network, to get to know important people from specific industries, and to get to know other startups with similar problems or issues. And last but not least, also to find some partners and some corporates or SMEs that might be exactly in the need of what you are offering. Here we have 3 examples. I'm quite sure you all are familiar with Volkswagen, and they have been doing a pretty big project with one of our startups called Wandelbots from Dresden. It was in the field of industry robotics. Wandelbots had like a sensor jacket, which then can train other robotics, which was quite helpful for Volkswagen as well. Another example is Motion Miner and Renus. Motion Miner is basically like a fitness tracker for companies. So they help companies making processes more efficiently, which also was of great value for Renus. And then we have Smart Lane and Deutsche Bahn. You all know Deutsche Bahn probably. And Smart Lane is like a planning software, which also was very helpful for Deutsche Bahn. So as you can see here, we really have some big corporates as well in our initiative, and they are cooperating with startups from all over. And then, of course, we do within the initiative a lot of activities on a national and international level. For instance, trainings for hubs, but also we do have almost each hub has accelerating programs. So when you are joining a hub and participating in a hub, you most likely have the chance to participate in one of the really great accelerating programs. Then we're doing a lot of events, expert discussions. You can always find us at the big tech fairs, for instance, Web Summit in Lisbon, Viva Tech in Paris, and so on. And we also are preparing VC dinners and international network cooperations. So this was just like in a nutshell to give you a very brief overview about what Germany has to offer, and that there's a lot of opportunities for you guys. And yeah, please feel free to contact us anytime if you're interested in becoming part of the Digital Hub initiative, or if you need more advice on support in setting up a company. So, but for now, I will stop sharing my screen and return to you. And I really hope to see you all at the Startup Germany tour in November. But now I give the mic back to Kim and our great panelists who will now follow with our panel discussion. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Stephanie. Yeah, thanks a lot for these insights into the German market and especially startup ecosystem. And picking up on your introduction to the Digital Hub initiative, we are very lucky to have one representative as one of our speakers today. So in the next few minutes, we will also not only talk about the logistics and mobility sector in Germany in more detail, but also learn a little bit how one of the hubs can actually be a fantastic entry point to Germany. So thanks a lot, Stephanie. Yeah, let's move over to the topic of today, actually, logistics and mobility. So why did we choose this? Of course, Germany is one of the top locations in the world for logistics and any sorts of mobility. Germany ranks #1 in the logistics performance index. The biggest logistics companies in the world come from Germany. Everybody knows about Deutsche Bahn, there is Schenker, and there is Kühne + Nagel, and there are so many others. But also, the automobile, is actually right at the heart of Germany. The first automobile in the world was built here in 1885 by Carl Benz. Well, that might ring a bell, because today everybody knows Mercedes-Benz, as a brand, nowadays belonging to the Daimler corporation, which combines a lot of different brands underneath its belt. But of course, everybody knows Volkswagen, BMW, Audi, Porsche, not naming all the suppliers such as Bosch or Continental and so on, that are key players in the world of mobility. But nevertheless, all of these industries have very big challenges today. Everybody thinks about the mobility of the future. How do we actually transport people and things from A to B in the future? How do we manage urban mobility? When cities become more densely populated and climate change puts all of our livelihoods at risk more and more. Of course, we cannot answer all of these global questions today, but we have some experts here with whom I want to discuss some of these topics. So it's a great pleasure to introduce you to our speakers of today. First of all, Andreas Nettstreter. He has more than 14 years experience with Fraunhofer Institute. By training, he's a computer scientist, nowadays working on disruptive solutions to shape the future of logistics with a particular focus on how we collect, share, and process data and which impact that has on the whole industry and society. I'm very happy to have you here, Andreas.
Thank you, Kim.
And then we have Henning Richards. He's a consultant at the Digital Hub Mobility in Munich, which is managed by Unternehmertum. And Unternehmertum is one of the largest innovation centers in Europe. Henning will certainly talk a bit about that and introduce Unternehmertum and the Hub to us later. But at the Hub, Henning fosters the mobility ecosystem at the Hub, and that means, for instance, matching startups with corporates and driving innovation programs, among others. So I'm also very happy to have you here, Henning.
Thank you, Kim. Pleasure to be here.
Perfect. We were planning to have David Chesty, my colleague from Germany Trade and Invest, with us. Unfortunately, he cannot make it. Nevertheless, I'm happy to have Andreas and Henning with us, so we can definitely have a closer look in the industry nevertheless. So, let me start with you, Andreas. You've been working in the field of logistics or on the sidelines of logistics for quite some years. What kind of trends or disruptions in the industry have you seen over the last couple of years?
I think that there are several trends or even hypes which the logistics went through, but I think one of the most important ones during the last years was that, at least from my experience, logistics made a good way from coming from the pure transport. So those are the ones driving the trucks, going by rail, going by plane, and that this view also from the outside developed to, okay, logistics is some kind of a high-tech domain. So it came from, they are the suppliers, the truck drivers, and it moved over. And today, at least in Germany, logistics is often named as one of the most important areas to test and invest new technology. And I think this is, of course, directly connected to some other things. When you talk about the current trends like artificial intelligence, you often hear logistics and mobility can be one of the most important application fields for artificial intelligence. IoT, I mean, the Internet of Things is coming from the logistics. So it started with every object needs an ID. And I think the father of the Internet of Things is coming from Procter and Gamble, a typical retailer who is doing a lot of logistics themselves. So I think all the big trends have an impact on logistics, and I think logistics as an application area is really interesting. Now we are talking about startups. Is really interesting for startups, because the whole of logistics is, of course, much more than pure transport. It's about intralogistics. It's about logistics for manufacturing. It's about supply chain management. It's about value networks. And of course, it is also about transport in the different modalities.
Okay, so logistics a couple of years ago and a couple of decades ago was completely different. Nowadays, it's what I understand is it's interconnected. Data plays a huge role, and the whole area of globalization is driven by interconnected like logistics or supply chain systems. Now we have a little focus here on the German market. What can you see in the German market? For instance, by some players, how do they respond to these new developments? Can you, for instance, shed some light on some applications that you can see already happening in the market? Maybe some working better than others, but what is going on here?
Yeah, I think, of course, most of the large logistics service providers, and you just mentioned a few with DHL, Schenker, Kühne, at least as a former German company, and Renus Daxa. So those are the big names in Germany, and they are all investing a lot in new technology. They are also collaborating a lot with startups. So as you can, Schenker has a cooperation with Volocopter for this air mobility aspect. So they are already they are all building up and investing in a network with startups because they are looking for fresh new ideas. But of course, they are not only using, let's say, external capacities, they also set up a few strategic projects and program lines to invest and to test new technologies. This, I think, for a few of them, we are quite lucky that in Dortmund we have those collaborating companies directly at our institute. So here we really established some kind of personal exchange, so that people, for example, from DB Schenker or from Renus or from Daxa are sitting here in Dortmund. So in the current Corona phase, it's of course less than it was before, but hopefully we will get some time back to more normal working conditions. And there it is really about developing stuff, and I think a quite new trend. And this is for me especially interesting, and I'm very happy that this happens, is about collaboration. So they are more and more leaving their own borders of their company, and they are willing to talk to other people and also to other people who are their competitors on the market, to share experience and also to exchange on new trends, on technologies, and to see, are there opportunities where we can collaborate? If yes, it's better than to do it alone. If not, because I don't know, it's still where you can differentiate on the market. Of course, there they will not share the development opportunities, but for all of the rest, I think this is a quite interesting development, especially for logistics, because the logistics market is quite heterogeneous, and we have at least in Germany, beside the big names we all mention normally, we have a few 10,000 or even 100,000 smaller companies, which I would guess have between 3 and 10 employees, and they are the ones who are really doing the operational logistics. So I think it is important to always have this collaboration in mind, and also not to forget about the smaller companies. And small in logistics really means small. And I think this is also a good opportunities for the startups to in this network of very small companies and really global acting big companies to find good application areas.
Let me pick up about on the topic of collaboration in startups. This is at the core of our Digital Hub initiative. Independent of the topic across all of our hubs. And let me bring in Henning here. Before we dig a little bit deeper into some overarching topics of technology. So Henning, at Unternehmertum or at the Digital Hub Mobility in Munich, I mean, you really bring startups and corporates together. Can you tell us a bit more about, first of all, what kind of mobility and logistics companies do you actually have as members in your hub? I know that BMW is, as a Munich company, is part of your community, but who else?
That's a very good question, Kim. I think we have multiple players here in Munich at the Digital Hub Mobility. So you mentioned already BMW as an OEM. However, there are much more partners and players we're collaborating with. For instance, we have Aijin as an automotive supplier originating from Japan. We have Infineon, we have IRBG, and we have, for instance, also Nokia and SAP. So these might be also players which people do not find very familiar when they think about automotive, when they think about mobility. However, we are on the way from, let's say, an automotive industry to a mobility industry, and a lot of new players will enter this market. And this is why we are not just, let's say, cooperating and partnering with the traditional partners and companies, but also with new entrants. And these might be established enterprises like the ones I mentioned. However, also the startups and the scale-ups who bring in fresh ideas, who have certain know-how, who have certain skill set also, which is actually very important. And I think what we also need when shaping the future, of course, also for logistics and the mobility, right? And I think at Unternehmertum, as an organization, we have lots of different programs which foster startups as well as scale-ups at their particular levels, to bring them further, to bring them to the next step they want to reach. It starts very early, maybe already before they even have a real founding team, but just an idea. But we also have programs for startups who maybe are just already in the process of starting their business, and they're looking for partners, they're looking for office space, let's say the typical things startups need when they start and grow. And also we have programs for later stage startups, acceleration programs, as well as venture capital. So just to mention some in a nutshell, Kim.
Yeah, I think that was already quite something, I guess. I guess Unternehmertum, thank you for being so humble about your activities. But I guess when you actually look a bit closer at it, you realize that actually it's massive what you're doing there, and quite impressive. And I guess Unternehmertum and the digital hub mobility is quite a role model for some other innovation ecosystems, not only in Germany but also abroad. I mean, that's as far as I understand it, you cooperate also a lot with international partners to not only connect your companies, but also to build the bridges internationally and make some knowledge transfer and technology transfer in the end. You already, both of you mentioned, for the automotive industry on the one hand side, but also for the logistics, that the whole industry as we knew it before doesn't look like like this anymore, and will transform in the future as well, so that the typical car manufacturer will not just produce cars in the future. We can already see that the big companies are diving into other technology fields, look more at applications and how basically data management. Both of you, a question to both of you, can you describe maybe one or two projects that you are maybe involved in, or that you know from your ecosystems, where you can actually see this transformation, where the typical industrial company actually goes this path of transformation, of digital transformation, together with partners, for instance, startups or academia. Maybe Andreas, for the logistics sector.
Yes, I have a very, very pragmatic example, because this really shows the complete transformation of a company. When we started the project, and interestingly, it generated a new logistics startup. So it's this typical Fraunhofer storyline, to come from good ideas, find industry partners, and then generate or create a startup. This one was together with the company, or with an association called EPAL. It's the European Pallet Pool Association. So if you know pallets, they always have this sign on it, which is named EPAL. So it's a pallet from them. They have more than 500 million pallets going around in Europe. So it is already a lot. And their traditional business was to take care of the pallet pools. So they looked at how many pallets do we need, how many pallets do we have, do we need new ones, whatever. So a quite non-digital business model. And they were thinking about what other options do we have? So how can we transform? And there it was their main benefit in their portfolio is they are more or less controlling is not the right word, but in their portfolio, they have this 500 million pellets. And they thought, okay, what digital business can we create out of it? And this is where let's say Fraunhofer came in, and now the startup from my colleagues is doing the industrialization. It was about, if we are able to track those pellets, and only a few of them, we don't need 500 million, we can at least get a quite good overview where pellets are moving in Europe. And based on this information, you can easily think about new business models. So if you are in need of pellets, and EPAL knows, okay, there is currently going a stream in your direction, they could offer you some new opportunities to say, okay, we will route some pellets to you. Or another example, you and your neighbor are all shipping pellets independently from each other, and you could easily share the transport capacities, because you are just door to door, or in the next city or whatever. Those are informations which you can get out of those location and tracking data from the pellets. And it's, in the first step, independently on what is transported. It's only the transport process itself which is interesting for them. And there they invested some money. Now they are working with our startup, and by that I find it quite interesting, because they transformed completely from, let's say, a traditional company or an association which used wood to build pellets out of it, to a company who are thinking about digital business models, and who will quite soon come up with new digital services on top of their traditional business. Because, to be honest, there can be other companies who can also build pellets out of wood. So they need to find something new where they can still differentiate on the market. And I think this transformation from a pure non-digital company or association to one who's offering digital services based on tracking information, on Internet of Things, is quite interesting story.
Yeah, absolutely. Sounds like a fascinating example, especially when the transformation is so huge from brick and mortar business to actually a data business. I mean, this is only one out of so many examples, that is happening right now. But nevertheless, the German Mittelstand, or small and medium-sized enterprises in Germany, coming from the traditional industries, still a lot of them need to go this path and find new ways, as you said, Andreas, to not to leave the old business just alone, but also to differentiate with the help of innovative technology solutions into a situation where they can compete also in the future. And I can imagine, Henning, you've also seen quite some examples of companies had to follow the development, this transformation path, and then also came to you, to the hub, to get some help.
Yeah, sure, definitely, Kim. So on the one hand, we have organization and partners who are interested what's going on at the future of mobility. How does it look like? And if you would like to get an answer to that, it makes lots of sense to talk to the players who have a stake in the future of mobility. And we are a hub, let's say, for these kind of players and for these kind of answers. So some of the organizations we are partnering, they would like to get these answers from us in working or collaborating with these other stakeholders together. And I can, for instance, mention an example. So what we did, for instance, last year was to follow a trend from, let's say, the automotive industry to the mobility industry, what we will see and have in the future. So I think the trend started a couple of years ago, where we started to think not just in cars, but in terms of mobility. And when it comes to mobility, what do we see there already by now and in the future? It is actually very much based on a technological shift. So let's say we will see already by now a shift to e-vehicles, to bikes, to e-bikes, to e-cargo bikes. autonomous driving and shuttles will be possible, and soon we also will have air mobility. This is the one side, and the other side is that we focus mobility also more on the needs of citizens. What citizens want today and in the future is more livable municipalities, meaning less noise, less pollution, less accidents also when it comes to traffic. So this means we will see a change in the public transport. It will be more on demand, it will be more individually, it will be more convenient. We will see a road layout which will be more adapted to bicycles. This is also something what we can see already by now, and everything will be more flexible. So we're not talking about cars solely anymore, but about multimodality. So each of us will decide very soon whether we would like to come from A to B based on the reason why we are moving. Is it I would like to pick up my kids at school? Is it I would like to commute to work? Is it I would like to go to the mountains? So based on these possibilities, I very much decide what mode of transport I choose. And taking into account all these trends, what we have already and what will come, we are processing, let's say, experiments and projects with all of our partners. So as you and Steffi told already, it is our objective to bring together the different stakeholders for our industry. So meaning startups, municipalities, the enterprises, the politics, and everybody else who's passionate about mobility.
And I guess an important part here is you're sitting in Munich.
Yeah.
And so most of course your community, not the largest part, comes from the region or comes from Germany at least, but that's actually not all. No? Maybe you can tell us a little bit how international are you actually, and what are the opportunities also for foreign players, no? International startups, international companies, to participate, in your activities, because these topics are global. I mean, they are not reduced, of course, not limited to Germany. I mean, that's for sure. But so, an international involvement totally makes sense, right?
Yeah, definitely. And this is what we also take into account and into consideration. So it is not about where the players come from. It is about the challenges and the topics, and we involve everybody who would like to change the status quo and move a step forward into the future of mobility. And this is not just limited to municipalities and to enterprises, but also to scale-ups and to startups. So they do not need to be from the Munich or the Bavarian or the German area. They can be from everywhere. And regarding what they...
So let's put it simply. Now we have visitors or an audience from all over the world. Right? Mm-hmm. I know that a lot of them are startups, entrepreneurs. If one of those would participate in your activities and become a member of your hub, how can they do that? I mean, do they just have to register on the website, or is there a process? How does it work?
Yes, so we have a community where we welcome actually all the startup and scale-ups. It's a community on Slack where, of course, startups and scale-ups can exchange their current needs, and also they can exchange information to each other. But on the other hand, it is also our opportunity to provide them with information. So about fundings, about events, about actually everything what is going on in the mobility industry. So what we also know. So this is on, let's say, our mobility level. What we have furthermore at Unternehmertum is all these different kinds of programs which are mentioned already. a little bit. So for scale-ups, but also for startups, we have all different kind of programs. Everything actually they need in order to go further. Also regarding their current stage, or take this into consideration. So it's pre-incubation programs, it's acceleration programs, and it's incubation programs. So, and if this sounds interesting to the participants in this panel discussion here, they should just reach out either to the webpage of Unternehmertum, apply for the programs, or just write me a message and connect with me, and I have a chat with you guys, and then we can also figure out what's the best program for you, what are your needs, and what would be the best fit with Unternehmertum.
Perfect. I get that sounds very pragmatic, because I guess that's always the biggest question. Now I'm interested, and then the question is, how do I actually get involved? So,
yeah.
Okay, so everybody who's involved, just listen up. You can contact Henning for Digital Hub Mobility in Munich. Over to you, Andreas. I mean, you work at Fraunhofer. That's a little bit different organizational structures, and on your projects also have a different shape, of course. I mean, how do you actually interact with international organizations, international companies when you run your activities, on logistics or digitalization, open source logistics, and all of these topics that you're driving forward in terms of sustainability and so on?
I think that's like a typical research and innovation institute does it. So of course we are doing huge research, joint research projects. On the other hand, we are of course also working directly with industry, which there is a problem, and normally you are going to Fraunhofer if you find no one on the market who is able or willing to solve the problem. Then it's often the case that people come to Fraunhofer and they say that there is no market-ready solution for our problem. Could you help us? And then we'll start this typical, I would say, collaborative innovation process. Of course, we also have, as you mentioned, or as Steffi mentioned in the beginning, the digital hub logistics here in Dortmund is on the other side of the street. So we are very well connected to them. And I think, speaking for my colleagues from the digital hub, I think it's true what Henning said. So if you're interested in the logistics landscape, especially in Germany, you need to contact me, and I will forward it to my colleagues. Or I guess also Steffi and Kim have the right people in Dortmund. So just ask, and then we can help you. I think what's quite specific there is this aspect that we are not only dealing with startups. So, for example, once a year, but I think the deadline is went out last month. We have the Digital Logistics Award. So this is already an international award for startups, and this is also quite good idea to get in contact with the German logistics industry, because many of the people there in the jury are representing larger logistic companies, and there you typically can apply for, and also if not Corona is running, then you'll also get the chance to pitch and win a prize money. So but I think it's more important for the network, because there you will meet a lot of people from the German, or let's say the German speaking countries. And your initial question, I think this is also something where the digital hub logistics came in, is international or big companies, they often have the same problems like the startups, or not the same problems, they are looking for the same solutions, but often they have the problem that they are not able to innovate, because they are fixed in their structure. So they have a clear hierarchy, they have clear business units, and often it is very hard for them to find new fresh solutions, or just to test it out. And one part here at the Digital Hub in Dortmund is that we offer companies, we call them start-ins. So it's more like a startup coming from an established company, because many of the companies realized we need to change the culture of work, the mindset. We need young teams who are more acting like startups and not like traditional companies. And they will also find a home here in Dortmund, because there we can, the colleagues can teach them how to go into an innovation process, how to think like a startup, and also how to, let's say, find a good way between this. There is the traditional company with the business model and completely new ideas, and afterwards to find the balance between them. And this is also interesting, because there we are using our network of startups to combine those start-ins who all have real existing problems, because they are coming from an existing company, and the startups. And this is always a quite interesting meetup, because there you can exchange ideas, and it is already on the same level. It is not about you're a startup and you're going to a huge company and you need to pitch. It's more like a good exchange of also technical people, developers, which is also for both sides often quite interesting.
Yeah, thank you, Andreas. I guess that really wraps it up. What the big potential is here. The companies on the one hand side have huge demands. They have the need to develop. They have pressing problems, and they cannot do it themselves. They cannot do it alone. They need help from outside, and that's where you come in. From an academic background, but also from the network perspective, where you connect the right actors and put them and offer them the right platforms to innovate. I think this is very important. That this is not just like a small trend what's going on. This is what's actually happening over the next decades. What will shape the whole industries, not only in terms of mobility and logistics or automotive and so on, but which is an overarching topic, I guess, for the whole country. I want to switch to one of the questions. We have one question from the audience, what I can see here is, I will read it to you. Can you please elaborate about intelligent speed assistance devices? How important is automatically limiting a vehicle's speed according to the speed limit set on a particular road section? Maybe that question goes to Henning.
Yeah, maybe. I'm not sure whether I can really answer the question, but maybe I can say a couple of words about it. So what we will see in the future is that that more and more municipalities will apply the so-called Vision Zero in their cities, meaning that we will have more or less zero killed or harmed people when it comes to transport accidents. And the speed for cars, also for bicycles, are very important when it comes to that. And already by now we see more and more municipalities were, at least in inner city areas, cars are just allowed to drive 10 kilometers an hour, or 20 or 10 kilometers an hour, sorry. Speed assistance and also limiting the speed is highly important. Whether whether there's need for a speed assistant device, so something what can also control or steer the car, that it brakes automatically. I am not quite sure about that. I think when we go in this complete autonomous space, or autonomous driving, it's quite relevant and crucial also. But by now, I'm not so certain whether this also goes hand in hand with public regulations, that there's just a device what can steer automatically the speed of, for instance, cars. Not sure whether this answers the question, but maybe it could give an indication.
I guess you made clear that this topic is on the table here in Germany. for security,
Definitely.
for health reasons, and companies have to react to it. I think it's just a matter of time, and it's a process of integrating technical solutions into the system to protect the people. So now that we are almost coming to an end here, our time is almost up. I want to ask you one more question, and that is, what is your number one advice to international companies when they're not active in the German market already? What is your key advice, for joining the German market? What's the best way, to come here? Just in a few words, what would you advise?
I think the best first way is already participating this meeting here, and be aware of that there is an agency in Germany that is aware of this topic and is helping and supporting start and scale ups who are willing to set up their business here and have an entity here. And I think you guys can help them in a very good way. And I think when it comes down to certain industries like mobility or logistics, it's up to us hubs like the mobility hub or Andreas, who's closely connected to the logistics hub in Dortmund, that we will help out and answer further questions, depending on what this is then.
Thank you, Henning. Andreas.
Yes, I think, speaking for logistics is not German. So all the logistic companies are acting at least European-wide. Most of them are acting as global companies. So I think if you are willing to enter the German market, it is more like talking to international companies. And many of those companies, for example, when it's about language or some other parts, they are of course already using English as their internal language. So it is, I think in logistics, it is just do it because they are already seeing themselves as global companies and they are not looking for German specific solutions. They are looking for solutions which they can use in their global network.
Thank you. So what I take here is, what's happening in Germany is not only relevant for Germany, but at least on a European level. So coming to Germany can be the first step on a route in Europe and beyond. All right, then thanks a lot, Andreas and Henning, for the fantastic discussion. I guess we touched upon a lot of important topics here, and at least I can say I also learned a lot from you. Got new insights and new perspectives on these topics, and clearly I guess we can see that it definitely will pay off to get in touch with you, get in touch with the hubs, to have to get the help and for free, get the first contacts to find your own way to the German market. So last but not least, I want to thank everyone that participated here today. So thank you, Henning, thank you, Andreas, for being fantastic speakers. Thank you to our audience from all over the world. And I want to make one more announcement. This is the first webinar in a series of webinars that we are hosting this week. So tomorrow we will talk about InsurTech and FinTech. On Wednesday, we will dive deeper into smart cities and smart city solutions. And on Thursday, we will discuss the potential of digital manufacturing industry 4.0 in Germany. So thank you, Stephanie, as well. Thank you for coming up here again for your input in the beginning of this webinar. And I can only say thanks a lot to our global audience again. That's truly unique. Everybody, stay safe, stay healthy, and see you soon in Germany. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye. Thanks for having me.